YOLO composing gloves here, and today we are going to take a look at the free VST known as the VALHALLA Frequency Echo. Or VALHALLA Freq Echo, because they don't spell out frequency. I don't know. I personally think that's kind of cooler. VALHALLA Freq Echo. Anyways, let's hear some examples first of this plugin in action. First, it can function just like a regular delay. With the right settings, namely a short delay and a healthy amount of feedback, you can get a comb filter, which is typical of delays. If you modulate this delay via automation, you also obtain a flanger effect, which this is precisely how flangers work. It's a shift in time that's modulated, so no surprise there. With a very short delay setting, you can obtain a phaser sound. The shift, the big knob in the middle, will control the speed of this phaser and also the range. It's a little complicated. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. With the right sound source and a longer delay, with a little feedback, you can even make it sound like you have a reverb on. Though delay reverbs can often have a ringy sound at the end of them because it's a delay, and depending on the delay, this can be better or worse. If modulation options are provided, it usually sounds a lot better, but this one has a really ringy sound. Here it is. The feedback knob does exactly what it sounds like it does. It takes what's coming out and feeds it back into the beginning. So you send a sound through, it gets delayed. It takes this delayed sound and feeds it back into the beginning, and it gets delayed again. When this happens, the signal is multiplied by a coefficient, because if the signal comes in just as loud as it was, that we could say that's the same as multiplying by 1, so the signal didn't change at all. We're going to form an infinite loop. If this loop has gain on it, which filters often can bring up, or if you just multiply by a filter coefficient larger than 1. And since you're going to be summing this with a signal that's coming in anyways, this can form a infinite feedback loop that can just sound tremendous. So you want to be careful with feedback. This plugin, around 85% and up, is particularly touchy, like much more so than other ones that I've touched. So just be cautious around that area. Most of the time, you won't need to go above 60 for most of your needs, and I think you'll find below 50 often to suit your preferences. But go ahead, check that out. This plugin does have a tendency to die out. You think it's off, you don't think any sound's gonna come through, and then all of a sudden, you get a big wash of delay sound that you didn't anticipate. If you turn the feedback all the way up, this thing can pick up just the discrete dithering noise or something. It picks up something in your DAW and begins to amplify it. I don't know if this is just noise that's in the buffer or what it is, but check it out. The main point of feedback is that the higher the feedback is, the longer the delays will go on for. Notice that the delays come at set intervals. The time between delays can be sped up or down by the delay knob. The elephantine knob in the middle is called the shift knob, as appropriately labeled, and it has the ability to take delayed audio and control the speed of the pitch bend up or the pitch bend down by a value in hertz. I want to emphasize that it does not just control the amount of pitch bend, it also has the ability to control the speed. Because this knob influences two settings, it gets the title of most complicated knob in this plugin. So let's just start with some clear examples and we'll work from there. First, let's put a sine wave in with moderate feedback and a noticeable delay. So no delays within 20 milliseconds, something longer than that so you can hear the delay discreetly. Also ensure that you are in free mode in the delay sync option. When we do this, we notice that a low shift value produces a small change in pitch as well, which kind of makes sense. 1 hertz isn't that much, so we would expect not very much pitch to change. So we can conclude that the shift knob controls the offset in pitch, which seems to make sense at first. If we let the feedback be low, then there's going to be less echoes because there's less feedback. And if we let the feedback be high, then we get more echoes. I want you to notice this here before we start introducing large amounts of feedback and large amounts of shift and large delay changes. It's much easier to notice here when things are isolated. Notice that each discrete echo is shifted up by the pitch value. So our pitch continues to rise by the amount we set on the shift knob. So this means that if our shift is small, then the echoes will be tightly bunched together. For example, if I had 1 hertz, it would only go up by 1 hertz every delay. So that's going to be really close to our original pitch. But if we choose a large delay, then they're going to be very spaced out. 1000 hertz every delay is going to add up really fast. Because these shifts are directly additive, meaning each shift is added to the last one as set by our shift knob, this means that the shift is a linear shift. Because we hear logarithmically and not linearly, this means that these pitch sounds, these pitch shifts, will quickly sound atonal, with larger shifts becoming atonal much faster than smaller shifts. Knowing this, we can already produce a lot of different musical effects, but if pitch is something you want to preserve, consider having a shift of 0 and just using it as a delay, or consider having a very low shift. If we have low feedback, so there's going to be very few echoes, and a small shift with a moderate delay, we can obtain a nice detuned echo that can make a synth sound a little more retro. I want to take a moment here to really quick point out how important the equalizer is at the end of the signal chain. The equalizer, especially the high cut, basically acts as a ceiling. So if you have a high feedback, If you want your frequencies to sound softer as they go higher, which is very frequently the case, you need to make sure you set the cut, because the equalizer will only equalize the feedback signal, or the delayed signal, that is to say. So whatever's being fed back in, if you want it to reduce in amplitude as it goes higher, then you're going to need to set the ceiling with that knob. If you don't, frequencies will continue to stay loud as they go higher, and that's very often unpleasant. The shift knob also has the ability to influence the speed of pitch shift, and can thus be used to create a modulation. If you don't know what a modulation is simply when you move a control so fast that it produces a new tone. So, for example, amplitude modulation is where you turn the volume up and down so fast that you actually create an entirely new waveform. In this case, we are modulating the frequency so fast, and humans, it's not hard to do. Anything faster than 20 hertz will begin to perceive additional frequencies in it. And as we go in the realm of 300, 400 hertz, we're going to hear an entirely new tone. So check it out. Let's set up one with free running mode on, a little bit of delay, some feedback, and we're going to use the shift to control the speed of the phaser. So we're doing the phaser settings from before. This is very apparent when shown on a sine wave, since sine wave has no harmonics and this is bending frequency, it's going to translate just to a pitch bend. If we now use a sound with harmonics, we will hear the phaser. And as we vary the shift knob, we will hear the speed change. This means that the shift knob not only controls the frequency shift, but it also controls the speed at which this shift occurs, which makes it somewhat temperamental. So as you touch it, you're sort of touching something that could really be two knobs. This also means, however, that the delay, shift, and feedback form just all kinds of options as you're messing with them. And we haven't even talked about things that you could do as far as automation is concerned. What if you were to automate these values? So you automated the pitch shift while you were changing the delay and the feedback. It could just sound absolutely wild. You have a lot of options here. For example, you could create some mess of a track, some just crazy sound, like Pendulum does this in a couple of his tracks. You create this crazy sound and then slowly automate these settings down to more reasonable values, and it will sound like your sound has just like pulled itself together. Or you could go the other way and automate something that started with really reasonable controls and then just have it get really crazy. Other controls feature a mix knob for all your wet-dry needs, an output mode allowing you to switch from stereo to mono if you want, the interface is resizable, and the output also features a low and high cut EQ. It should be noted that there are not native presets for this device, so you will have to use your host DAW to save presets. Also, if you right-click on a knob, you're going to open a menu that I did not know existed for a long time. That gives you control over how the knob scrolls. I, however, just hold control if I need to scroll a knob more precisely. So if you want to be really precise, hold control, click drag, it'll scroll it by a smaller, more scaled amount than if you were to just click and drag without holding control. But it's cool that those options are there. A lot of people comment that they don't have an intuition when they're grabbing this tool on what to use it for. I can see at least 3 large reasons why to grab this tool. The first is tonal shaping. The second is a sync delay with pitch shifts, since that's unique to this plugin. And the third is sound design. For example, if you automate some controls such as the delay, you can start to produce some pretty wild sounds. Throw feedback automation in and you can get really crazy. Sync delay is very common, and here's an example of that. Finally, I think you can see how crazy this sound design can get by yourself. Inserting this plugin into the middle of some large signal chain for sound design can give you some interesting leverage that might not otherwise be available to you, especially when it comes to the art of comb filtering, because now you can insert a plugin that has comb filtering, as in a very, very small delay. I commonly put this in signal chains I use, but now you can include a frequency shift that can offer some new controls. So that is the VALHALLA Freq Echo. You can obtain it by the link in the description. Subscribe and share this video to get the word out to other producers who you think could benefit from this free tool. And give a look at the other products by VALHALLA DSP. They are very well respected. This, by the way, was the first plugin by VALHALLA DSP, which is pretty dope. Also, if you want to help a starving college student who is getting into way too much debt for school, then please consider donating via my website through PayPal, and I am super grateful to you. Thanks for watching. If you make something dope with this plug, comment it down below so other people can see, ways it can be applied. No just random self-promo though. It's got to be related to this plugin specifically. And have a blessed day.